7:47. Let's see what's in the papers this morning with Deputy Editor at Spiked, Fraser Myers, and Editor-at-Large at Times Money Mentor, Georgie Frost. Morning to you both. Let's get my list out. Fraser, Sunday Express.
There's this lovely story of a little girl who Princess Catherine got to know when the little girl herself was facing a horrible battle against cancer.
Yes, Mila, only 8 years old, had a horrible fight with leukemia, and particularly, it was particularly hard, as if that wasn't hard enough, because she was going through this during the pandemic. So she had to actually... She was living in the family home, and her own family had to live separately from her so that she could be shielded, because undergoing things like chemotherapy put you, at extra risk of catching COVID, even if you're only a young person like she was. And so she was the image of her waving at her father from, her own home kind of captured Kate's heart. She appeared in this photo book that Kate put together, and they also met several times. And, of course, Mila is wishing the Princess of Wales well.
And what's
nice.
there was a lovely incident where they did meet up, must have been obviously after COVID was finished, and they met up at Holyrood, and Catherine was wearing a red dress, I think, and she met Mila, and Mila was wearing a pink dress.
Yeah.
And Catherine said to her, "Is that your favourite colour, pink?" And she said, "Yes, it's my favourite colour." And so Catherine got up, walked out and changed into a pink dress.
Aww.
Did she?
Yeah. Isn't that lovely? She must carry her wardrobe.
Well, yeah.
Spare pink dress.
She must have thought, I've got a pink dress in the suitcase
Fetch
upstairs
the
or something.
pink suitcase. Come on. But no, that's nice. It's little things like that make a huge difference.
Absolutely. And they stayed in touch ever since, haven't they?
Georgie, can we have a look at the Sunday Times and this idea that some of our politicians are being targeted by China?
Yeah, nothing new here, but there's a lot of talk about China. I suppose we're running up to an election. There's obviously concern about that. In the US, they're talking about banning TikTok, which is, of course, Chinese-owned. But like I said, this is nothing new, but it does seem to me that, and maybe I'm being a bit unfair here, that government departments tend to be slightly behind the curve, shall we say, with things like this. We've got a brand new wave of Gen AI, new technology coming in that's going to cause all sorts of problems. So, I think they only banned TikTok on their phones last year.
But is it... Can we ever beat this sort of thing? Because whatever we come up with to ban TikTok and create, security walls, whatever they call them, to filter everything out, the minute we invent something, it gets beaten.
The reality is we are never going to beat cyber criminals. I actually spoke to an expert very recently about just this, who said, we have to get used to it. Basically, create your crown jewels, protect the most important thing for you, and accept, and this is for business or for government, accept that there will be breaches around that. So what the government needs to do is focus on things to protect. They need to make sure that their security systems are as tight as possible, particularly, as you say, like running up to an election. But as you say, this is... we're playing a game of whack-a-mole. They're far more sophisticated. And when you hear, a Chinese government, they'll have the weight of a Chinese population, which is, what, a fifth of the world's population? That is quite a battle on their hands, the government.
Yeah.
There's always more you can do, though, and I think, lots of government computers in particular are very outdated. I mean, people might remember back in 2017 when the NHS came under cyber attack, and one of the reasons it was so vulnerable was because, a lot of the computers people used were Windows XP, and those had been out of date for about 5 years already.
I'll tell you what,
by that point.
MPs and their members of staff are changing computers left, right and centre, all at taxpayers' expense at the minute.
Are they?
I can tell you that. Every time there's a new budget in, they're buying new iPads and heaven knows what.
But the biggest breaches come from human error, without a doubt. And I would say just on this, and it's a bit beyond China, but just do the safe things, don't use the same passwords. It's all those sorts of things, isn't it, as well?
Can we change tack to something just light and fluffy?
Of course.
And black bears in Woburn.
So this is a safari park in Bedfordshire, and there are amazing images of bears actually having a little pedalo ride. So the enclosure was flooded, and the keepers, if you like, decided, well, we've got a spare swan pedalo. It doesn't have any pedals, so it can't be used by human beings. Let's put it in the enclosure and see what happens. And the bears, being the curious animals that they are, they're all over it. They're loving it.
I love that.
Look at that, they're all on board.
Everyone's getting into it.
Everyone wants to go.
You see, I love that. I've been on one of those swans at Woburn. That might have been that very
Might be
one.
that one.
You never know. I just think stuff like that's just... We need a bit of heartwarming
Yeah,
stuff at the minute,
that's
don't we?
true.
Well,
That
you
is
certainly
true.
learn, don't you, that the keepers of these animals now that are in captivity, but they try and give them lots of stimulation.
Yes,
different things. to
They
explore.
say they want to enrich the environment for
Yeah.
them constantly.
Well, that
Well, they
just
are-
shows that bears are curious.
Yeah, they're not... But I'll tell you what, these things, and like zoos and things, they're not zoos. They're all conservation projects, aren't they? Which is very important. I want to conserve my bank account,
Yes.
Georgie. So, for looking at this, one place I won't be going for a new ironing board is Harrods.
Tell us about this ironing board.
This is I think it's an ironing experience rather than just an ironing board. For £4,000, you'd like to think so. It's sort of psychedelic ironing board. It's got a built-in water feature thing that you can steam it. I mean, the question, as Fraser rightly asked when we were looking over this, was if you can afford a £4,000 ironing board, you could probably afford to just send your clothes to get ironed. However, I worked out the maths. I don't just come in here unprepared. And I think it would be about 5 years. And after that, you know, if you took it to a dry cleaner to get it done professionally, after 5 years, you know, actually it's better getting the ironing board. But I do think it's a key feature about how we spend
Have we got a picture of the
a
ironing
lot
board?
of money.
Oh, we don't.
But is it one of these that has it sucks, it's got vacuum, or it can blow through the shirt? Because I tell you, I know someone who's got one, an ironing system like that. William Hanson, the UK's leading etiquette expert. I see him on. He's all over.
Well, just if you are
Twitter,
thinking of getting
he's
it,
got an
though,
ironing system like that.
a Harrods reviewer said, a little flimsy, considering how much it costs. So look, you know, if you were thinking of spending £4,000 on the ironing board, little flimsy. I mean, it looks like a beast. I mean, quite
does,
hefty to carry it around. So
I don't know if you bought his from Harrods.
£4,000 for... Just
Send
don't
it
do
out.
the ironing,
No, I
send it
wouldn't
out.
bother.
Yeah.
Hate it. Thanks both. See you a little bit later on.
Thank you.
Here's your weather with Marco.